Hey guys, Dave and Len here. Welcome to Wargame Chat. Today we're going to talk about magazine games, more specifically types of topics we like to see in magazine games. Games are known for having like uncommon battles and uncommon scenarios and stuff, and sometimes they're known for like experimental rules or new mechanics that haven't been used yet. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But what I like to see in magazine games is I like ancient games, so I like to see a lot of those. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I'd like to see more games probably about Alexander the Great, more games about maybe the successors and so on and so forth. There's a pretty decent selection of games about the Roman Empire that are inside magazines, though. What's one of the things you'd like to see?
Actually, I'd like to see games on battles that haven't been covered. Like one thing I was thinking, I was thinking Alexander the Great. The problem with that is Alexander didn't have that many battles.
True, but they're well recorded, the ones he did have.
Yeah, I'm about to say there's a few places where you can get all the battles and play it out. What I was thinking about, first of all, I like the idea of ancient battles because there are many of them. There's so many of them, and many of them have not been covered. Mm-hmm. And what it is that, like for instance, I like to see some of the Roman battles in the early Republic, against the Samnites. And
yeah, that would be cool. Or even before the Republic, when the Romans were just basically hoplites and stuff. Yeah. But before the Republic, that would be cool to see some of those battles. That the author would have to stretch his imagination though, because there's so little written about that period. You'd almost be making it up as you're going along.
And there's a period which the Romans fought a lot of battles against the barbarians. And I think this is like when Stilicho was in command, and he defeated the Goths and the Vandals on numerous occasions. So maybe see some of those battles. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of Byzantine battles I've never seen available. I mean, Byzantine versus the Bulgars. That might be interesting.
True.
And so I noted that there was, I think it was in Compass Games, they had one in the 18th century between Burma and Thailand. Mm. And actually, it's one of those I'll probably be playing soon. It looks simple enough and interesting enough.
I'd like to see more about the Mongols and the Huns, too.
True.
We did play that one that was really simple but was fun. That was called The Scourge of God. I think it was from Paper War magazines. That one I liked.
Yes, and I think there's also a number of early medieval battles that would be interesting. Because the Vikings had a few stand-up battles. Of course, the problem is that we either know the very basics of it, and usually what it is King so-and-so of the Anglo-Saxons fought the Vikings and lost that day. We don't have an idea how many were there on either side, or where they fought or something, and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I think there was one magazine game. They had two Roman battles. And one of them might be hypothetical, because they said that they were in conflict with the Goths, and then they signed a peace treaty. And it says, well, the Goths signed a peace treaty. Well, they might have been talked into it, or there might have been a battle. Because I think he found out like the number of forces that were available, and just went and hacked and slashed at it. So, yeah, I was thinking modern times, 20th century, practically every campaign has been covered. Because I was thinking, at one time I was complaining there were no games about the China-Burma theater, but now there are a number. There have been a couple strategy games about Japan's war in China. So I think there's about two or three I could think of. And And I was thinking World War One, practically every battle has been covered, even in East Africa.
Well, the same could be said pretty much for World War II, too. If not in a magazine, then in a big box game. Almost every battle I can think of has been covered in that war, too.
One thing I noticed that S&T is going to have battles of the French and Indian Wars, just the straight off, line them ups. Because there are about two or three important battles. That might be interesting. So, and I was thinking also a lot Frederick the Great's battles. A lot of them have been covered.
Yeah, and maybe something really uncommon, like Battle of the Aztecs or Battle of the Mayans. I mean, there's not much known about their warfare and stuff, but I mean, you can make a theoretical thing about it, something that might be fun to play.
Especially Aztecs versus the Vikings.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of earlier. Vikings, too. Vikings, there have been probably plenty of games in the different magazines over the years. I'd like to see more, though. I think the Vikings, they're not gamed as much as they should be.
Yeah, well, I was thinking you don't see the battles, the tactical battles of the Vikings.
Yeah, it's usually stuff where they're moving around the sea and stuff and raiding ports.
Like a strategic opera. Or I was thinking one thing, one of the Vikings' most famous campaigns, the Siege of Paris, and there were two of them. That would be something interesting. Because the problem with the Vikings is they usually didn't know how to build siege equipment, but this time was an exception for some odd reason.
Well, maybe they had allies or something who
advisors.
But the Vikings, though, in tactical battles, from what I understand, they had something similar to the Roman testudo, where guys would put shields on top of their heads, and then the guys in front would hold the shield forward, so kind of like a walking tortoise, just like testudo for the Romans. Yeah.
Well, there were battles in which the Vikings attacked. Did they do a testudo attack? Or someone said that when they...
Well, that's usually to protect you from missile fire, is when you're in testudo.
Yeah.
Because you move a lot slower when you're in it.
One thing is also ancient battles, anybody other than Greeks and Romans, the Syrians versus Babylonians, maybe that might be interesting. Or the Medes and Persians hacking each other, and things like that. Something other than Romans and Greeks. The problem is the Romans and Greeks left a good historical record, so... And I'm not sure where you go to find out more about the Persians. And the problem with the Turks also, when they changed the alphabet in the 20th century, a lot of medieval Turkish history is lost unless they changed. Before they used to write in Arabic script, then they changed it to the alphabet script of the Western nations. So unless you're familiar with can read Arabic script and Turkish, you're out of luck. So I don't know if anybody's doing that, but
interesting.
Yeah.
But as far as other stuff, let me think. There have been some games about Vietnam. The ones in the magazines generally I didn't like. But I mean, there's no reason why someone can't come out with one that I would eventually like, or one that's more fun.
Well, one problem with Vietnam on a strategic level isn't that exciting. And on the operation level, it's a little better. It's on tactical level that it's can be done well. And of course, the same with Afghanistan with the Soviets in there. On tactical level, that could be interesting, like that one game we played. So.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. That Afghan game we played from, who was that? Revolution? I forget what it was called. That was actually good. Yeah, I think I rated that one somewhere between good and very good, or something like that.
Yeah. And that one actually learned a lot about the different capabilities on both sides.
I'm watching something on Discovery Channel now about I think it was a platoon in the 101st Airborne that's in Afghanistan, and all the videos shot by the soldiers. It's a pretty interesting documentary. I think I actually had watched it a few years ago, or a few episodes of it. I'm trying to watch the whole series now.
Actually, I was about to say, in the future, we'll probably get tactical games about us in Iraq or Afghanistan. Maybe one about like the peacekeeping missions, or the convoy ambushes.
Those would be tricky to make, though, because there wasn't really after the invasion was done in Iraq, there wasn't any really not many big battles. I mean, you had stuff where. Like when the Marines and stuff were trying to take Fallujah, that was a big battle. But on the average every day, it was just like ambushes, IEDs and stuff. Not many fixed battles.
I'm trying to remember, somebody's putting a game out about Fallujah in a couple months.
Oh, okay.
The Compass Games are against the odds.
Yeah.
I forget who right now.
Yeah.
So
that's all street fighting and stuff. So that should be fun.
So okay, medieval.
Yeah, I think you mentioned medieval, yeah. You said you wanted the earlier medieval battles.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot of the earlier medieval haven't been done, but there's very little, data on them.
Yeah, that's a problem with a lot of the ancient stuff. I mean, the Romans, they're pretty well documented from the Republic to Imperial and even late Rome, but previous to that, there wasn't much written about what happened in some of the other nations. There wasn't much written about it other than what the Romans wrote. So unfortunately, a lot of history has been lost. Either it wasn't written down, or it was burned up in Alexander the Great's library, or whatever.
I think another one is Carthage versus the Greeks and Sicily. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
And also the Etruscans at war. So, and I also noticed there's a set part of a strategic game. The Romans in the Iberian Peninsula against Gaul, because they had a full-fledged war against Gaul and Spain after the second or third Carthaginian War. So.
Well, in the Third Punic War, I believe the Roman army went through Spain.
Yeah, because I think they were trying to.
I think Scipio brought his army over there, and he was fighting Hannibal's brother there.
Yeah. Okay, that's the. But there was something about the Romans and the Carthaginians controlled eastern Iberia. It wasn't a certain point that they went west to conquer the Gauls that were there.
Most people don't know this. There's quite a bit of Roman equipment that they had got from I guess you would call them Spaniards back then. What would be the correct word for the
Spanish Gauls?
Yeah, Spanish Gauls. I think the pilum was originally a Spanish invention back then, and then the gladius short sword, I believe that was Spanish too.
Yeah, and the oldest operational lighthouse is in Spain. It was built by the Romans.
Wasn't it called Hispaniola or something back then? Yeah, that's right.
Hispanic Gauls, that was the correct one.
Well, Julius Caesar's 10th Legion, he raised from all Spaniards. That was the Romans' best legion back then.
Yeah, because they were probably Western Gauls. Because when the Romans were fighting the Gauls, they were recruiting them for their legions. And they seemed to like to fight.
Yeah.
So, them and the Hebrews, they like to fight.
Well,
they were the best mercenaries.
A lot of the foreigners they had as in their auxiliary units, they told them that when your 20 years is done as an auxiliary, then you become a Roman citizen, so your sons can join the legions then. So a lot of that occurred too. That's one of the reasons why the Romans were so successful for so long, is because when they conquered a territory, the people who were conquered, if they became auxiliaries, they could become Romans then. There was a way to Romanize, where some of these other countries, when they invaded a country, there was no way for the people to assimilate into their society like that.
The Romans were very good in diplomacy, and that's why they had an empire. Because I remember one of the...
They were ruthless too, though.
During the time of troubles, some parts of the Roman Empire succeeded. The Rhineland, Northern Gaul and South Britannia formed a nation with the capital in Strasbourg. And when Illyrian was it not conquered, but stopped the disorders, he marched on Strasbourg. And the officials from Strasbourg came out and said, "Could we just rejoin the empire again? You know, you weren't around and there were these nasty Germans. We had to defend ourselves. So you don't mind if we were a nation for a little while, but we're ready to come back." So they had that kind of image. So
Cool. Anything else?
that's it. We got an idea of a few games, a few battles out there we want to see.
Yep. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.
Mm-hmm.